Hey, Dori. Here's your lunar report. It actually started yesterday afternoon. It's going to go until October 10th, which I thought was kind of funny because I know the number 1010. I think you like that number. But anyway, let me share. Oops, there we go. Um, so here's what the report looks like. And this it looks like kind of a big month for you. So the first thing that I'm going to look at is we have the moon over here at 21 degrees and 28 minutes. So that's exactly where the moon was at the time you were born, and it returns there every month. The moon this time is in the 12th house. The 12th house is solitude, our connection to spirit, our connection to like other people. It's kind of where we lose boundaries. It's where we connect to the universe. And so that sometimes, and the moon is our emotions. So emotionally, you might want to be spending some time alone, but in connection to spirit or with others in a meditative, connected, spiritual way. It's like you'll need nourishment emotionally in because your boundaries might be pretty open. That's actually a warning as well, that you might have a little bit of trouble emotionally with boundaries. And so the people that you spend time with, you might just want to be conscientious about that. Like if there's anybody that historically tramples on your boundaries or anything, that's something to be mindful of this month. The moon in the 12th can be kind of hard, because it's very open and receptive. So this month feels like kind of a big deal. That's why it took me a little bit to get my head around it, because we have the sun here at 21 degrees. Okay, 21 degrees and 17 minutes. And I point out the minutes because we have the sun is in opposition to, so hard to make a line with my mouse, Neptune over here at 21 degrees and 48 minutes. So we have the moon, the sun, and Neptune all at 21 degrees. Okay. This is called a T-square, because if you look at it geometrically, it creates a T right here. Okay. And T-squares are kind of tough, but with tougher alignments, that's where we learn a lot. So I'm going to delve into this because it feels pretty big. Basically, your lunar return for this month happened almost exactly after the first quarter square moon, which is a big deal collectively as well. With the first quarter square moon, we're hitting obstacles of things that we have been moving in the direction of, right? So for you, it would be emotionally, what have you been investing in? And you might be coming up against some blockages, and like a pivot point, in moving towards, because the full moon is when manifestations come about and we let go of what is not working. So this, at the same time as the first quarter square, the sun was also opposing Neptune. And the moon was in square to both of those. And this is impacting you directly because it's where the moon was when you were born. And this is going to be your emotional imprint for the next 28 days or so until October 10th. So I've talked about the 12th house. And that to me means that this opposition created by the sun and Neptune, which I'm going to describe, are going to have a deep impact on you emotionally as well as spiritually. We've got the sun over here in the 9th house. Oops. Anyway, that says 9. I didn't circle it very well. And then we have Neptune over here in the 3rd house. So what I want to do here is when these two houses are directly across from one another, it's called an axis. And I want to explain the 3rd and 9th house axis to you. So one way, and it's all archetypal. So one way I want to explain is the 3rd house is, think like an elementary school student, okay? It's also our thinking mind, the way that we communicate. When you're in elementary school, your world is relatively small, so it also rules our neighborhood, the people that we are in contact with on a daily basis. It's our learning style, it's our thinking style. And then the 9th house is rules college. So it's the expanding world. As opposed to our thoughts, it's more of our beliefs, okay? So the 3rd house is the mind, and the 9th house, I was tempted to say it's heart, but you know, sometimes our beliefs are limiting, right? So it is still the mind, but it's the broader learning mind. The 9th house rules long distance travel. So who do we meet when we go to destinations in the world? It also is kind of, it's professorial, like I said, it's more like a college student, but it can be, because it's beliefs, it can be, you know, professors, it's big ideas. You know, so the 9th house is having like broad sweeping beliefs and big ideas. I'm thinking, I'm seeing something kind of like the Fool card is what I'm seeing. And this is not like, you won't find this in a book. It's just the image that's coming to me. It's not tied into tarot that way, but I'm seeing the Fool card where it's kind of like, oh, I believe this and I believe that, like, and I'm going to make the world a better place, you know. And for the 3rd house, it's kind of like, I'm learning about this and I'm learning the application of like addition and multiplication. So one is not better than the other, because we can't get to the bigger picture without the smaller incremental steps to get there. And sometimes they're out of balance and we need to balance them. So that's a little bit of what's going on here. We have the sun in the 9th house, and the sun, it represents our heart. It's the I am, it's the ego, and that has a negative connotation sometimes, but it's the healthy expression of the ego. So your heart is up here in your belief systems, and in your broader view and the bigger picture. It also rules like religion, and that can be like spirituality, but it's just how we structure the idea of our beliefs. And then we have Neptune down here in the 3rd house, and the 3rd house is, you know, how our thinking and our mind is doing the thinking, and Neptune is very spiritual, but Neptune is ethereal. So I was trying to explain Neptune to somebody the other day, and you know, when when I do a ritual for any of the planets, which no, you know, I do rituals sometimes for the planets, like if I'm having a transit. Um, and Neptune doesn't speak in language, it speaks in symbols. So as opposed to like doing an incantation or something, what you do is you draw a sigil and then you put feeling into that sigil. And that's how you go about doing a ritual for that planet. So because Neptune is kind of our connection also to the other. It's very at home in the 12th house because that's a similar energy. So Neptune down here in your thinking mind is kind of means that your thinking may be a little cloudy, foggier, and hard to explain, right? Neptune also rules, you know, like poets. So you know, it's all archetypal. That's how I do my rituals. But I was thinking about it, and it's like a poet can write great poetry, but the detail that it takes to like get that poetry to a publisher and create a book isn't something that would come naturally. You know, I go by the traditional ruling planets in astrology, but Neptune is the modern ruler of Pisces, and the reason for that is because Pisces are kind of the very feeling, very like Peter Pan sort of energy, you know, the perpetually youthful or unexplainable or like you can't put them in a container. And in the third house, that's just interesting because the third house is how we organize our thoughts. So I'm looking at this whole T-square together and what it seems like ways that this could manifest. And again, I know that you can probably come up with other associations, but there, you may be really feeling something in your beliefs, okay? And Neptune could be comprehending that or making sense of that or putting that together in your thinking mind, you know, or there could be some confusion in that area. But even if you come to clarity, it might be hard to explain to someone else, you know? So, and with the moon over here in the 12th house of emotionally wanting to feel connected to the universe and to spirit, you'll need some alone time in order to make that happen. So this actually feels like it. Basically, the moon is getting a lot of action right now. We also have a sextile down here to Jupiter that's at 24 degrees. So we've got the moon at 21, and that's within 3 degrees. Jupiter, and this is in the second house, which rules your values, your finances, the things that you own, the things that like are important to you and feel good. And when I say feel good, the second house really is about like our connections and stuff like that. But like tactile, it's having nice stuff, you know what I mean? But not, that sounds really materialistic. The second house, you know, Jupiter in the second house would spend more money on the better thing, the thing that has more value, even if it's more expensive, you know? So this is about feeling comfortable. And Jupiter in the second house, just as a side note, can also mean that like you might have a really good month this month as far as abundance and finances and stuff like that. So anyway, you've got that helping out your moon. So Jupiter is a benefic, and having Jupiter helping out your moon, because this T square can just be kind of, it seems consuming to me. You're on the spiritual path, right? So we almost, when we're on that path, we almost welcome challenges here and there. This feels like a real opportunity to grow, especially if you see it coming, which, we are right now. Anyway, but, and it's a place where you can grow as far as your belief systems and your thoughts, and like connecting your smaller world and the larger world, your smaller mind and your larger mind, coming up with incremental steps that are spiritual, because this is Neptune, to get to the bigger picture that matches your heart, which is the sun in the 9th house. This is really cool. And the 12th house is meditation. Here's something interesting too. So more traditionally speaking, the 12th house rules institutions, hospitals, and with your work, this could be in direct connection to your work somehow. But that isn't to say this squares are conflict, oppositions are conflict. And so you have basically two squares, the moon squaring the sun and the moon squaring Neptune, and then the sun and Neptune opposing one another. So, there's conflict inherent in a T square, but there's a lot of opportunity for growth. Basically, my whole birth chart is freaking squares. So, and I like to think I've grown a lot or something like that. Anyway, I spent a lot of time on that because it's a pretty big deal. Now, the north and south node. The north node is kind of what you want to focus on this month. And the south node is kind of a comfort zone or something like that you might fall back on. The north node is over here in the 5th house, which I talked a lot about the 5th house last time. And I believe Neptune was there, but basically whatever you had going on in the area of creativity, children, romance, the house of joy is now what you want to focus on this month. So that might be a little bit smoother for you. And then the south node is in the 11th house, and the 11th house rules collectives of people, groups of people that we associate with. The 5th house is also healthy expression of the ego, because it's a house of joy. Like, we came here to feel good as individuals. And sometimes when we are so concerned about the collective, or it's hard to remember, like, oh, hold up, I came here to enjoy life. So you're meant to this month focus on experiencing joy and creativity and happiness for yourself, right? And it also rules children. So, you and Lucy might be having like a grand old time, and romance. So there's that. And then, the south node, if you're feeling, and that's funny because you have the moon in the 12th wanting solitude and meditation and connection to spirit. The south node is in the 11th house, which rules groups that we belong and associate with, our hopes and wishes for humanity. So if you're feeling like, well, I just am always supposed to do what's best for the collective, or I belong to this group and I always, or I should, or, I should be helping others. Be mindful of that, because this month is supposed to be about you. And I think it's because all of this growth is going on around here. You have Mars in the 9th house. I'm just looking. Yeah, Mars, that's a little far off, but Mars is coming off of a good aspect of Pluto. But Mars isn't really fighting with anybody. He's going to square the moon, but that's, 8 degrees away. The moon travels fairly quickly, and that's the next aspect that it's going to make. So, to Jupiter. Anyway, Mars is the warrior energy, the action. And so you may be taking action towards some of your beliefs, or so be mindful of that, because Mars is the warrior in the good way. He gets shit done and he wins, or and he fights, but in a bad way, that energy could be unnecessary. So um never fight on the internet. It's hardly worth it. I'm kidding, but it kind of like he can be over the top. So just be mindful that Mars energy is there, and we can definitely harness it though to get shit done, to do things that are in alignment with our belief systems. And then you have Mercury here, and Mercury is our mind, our communication. So that's kind of cool, because Mercury's natural home is down here in the 3rd house. So you have Mercury up here in the 9th house in these belief systems. So that's just symbiotic, I would say, that's going to help you out as far as balancing out this 3rd, 9th house axis right here. You also have the part of fortune, which is an area where you're going to have luck. And that's another indication to me that you're just going to learn a lot about your mind and your beliefs. We have Pluto and Saturn in the 1st house. Pluto is making a really good aspect to the sun up here, so that's good. They're in trine. And Pluto is and this is the 1st house, rules yourself, like your body, you as a person, how you show up in the world. So, and Pluto is like our subconscious thoughts and our limiting beliefs. It's about power and control. Are we trying to control others, or others trying to control us? What are we not being honest about? Pluto can be secrets. And Saturn is in here. Saturn is not really aspecting anybody. A bit of a square to Venus over here, but it's 4 degrees, so it's outside of that 3 degrees that I look for. Anyway, Saturn can be a grind, so Saturn in the 1st house, sometimes you might just feel awkward, right? Because you might be having all of this stuff internally going on. And so there could be not like feeling constricted, being you in the world this month, just because you have all of these changes going on. We've got Venus in the 10th, which rules your career. She's a benefic, so she's helping out. I would take that to mean that work may be going pretty smoothly. If you have anything going on at work, it would probably be more focused on like thoughts that you have about work, or beliefs that you have about work, or something like that. It would be more in that realm. And then you have, we have Chiron down here in the 3rd house, which is your mind. Chiron is the wounded healer. So you could be having some thoughts that you're working through that ultimately become healing, like a healing process. So it's kind of cool to see Chiron and Neptune. There's just a lot of spiritual healing stuff going on in your like thinky brain. That's a good thing. And then down here in the 4th, we have Uranus, and Uranus is kind of chilling out on his own, not making any tight aspects to anybody. And Uranus is surprises, electricity, unexpected things. Again, there may not be anything significant that happens, but he's hanging out in the fourth house, which rules your home, your security. And so there may be some like surprising or unexpected things that happen at the home, or with your like rock solid foundations, you know, because the fourth house rules our sense of security and safety in the world, but nothing that feels extremely dramatic. So I have covered everybody. I'm going to say that I feel like this T-square that I was talking about between the sun, the moon, and Neptune is going to be the most significant thing that you have going on this month. Anyway, I will get the next one out to you right around October 10th. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out, and I hope you have a great month. Peace. Namaste.